Hello everyone from Blue Media Channel. Today, we will closely examine a man who achieved success and rose to the rank of boss by moving like a tightrope walker in the underworld, namely Don Vito Genovese. In this first episode of our two-part video series, we will take a close look at Genovese's past and his step-by-step journey to leadership. We would be very happy if you could support us by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and not forgetting to hit the notification bell. Let's get started then. Born on November 21st, 1897, in the small village of Risigliano, near the city of Naples in southern Italy, to Italian peasants, Frances Felice Genovese and Nunziata Aluato, Vito Genovese would later transform into a completely different character in a completely different world. Vito had a sister named Giovanna Jenny and two brothers, Michael and Carmine, who would later join his crime family. His cousin Michael would become the boss of the Pittsburgh crime family. The Genovese family, which served the criminal world for generations, had only managed to educate Vito up to the 5th grade in Italy as a young boy. In 1913, at the age of 15, his family, like other Southern Italians, emigrated to the United States and started living in New York City's famous Little Italy. This place was one of the first steps into the world of crime. Genovese began his criminal career by stealing goods from street vendors and running errands for Mafia bosses. Later, he collected money from people playing illegal lotteries. By the age of 19, he had spent a year in prison for illegally possessing a firearm. In the 1920s, Genovese started working for Giuseppe "Boss Joe" Masseria, the boss of a powerful Manhattan gang that would later become the family he would lead. His childhood and youth friends, who were his partners in fate and Mafia comrades during this period, were Lucky Luciano and Frank Costello, who would become high-ranking figures in the Italian Mafia in America. These three future famous Mafia bosses started working for Jewish gambler Arnold the Brain Rothstein at the time. Rothstein had sensed the potential massive profits that prohibition would bring and immediately began supporting and funding this trio in the bootlegging business. Thus, Luciano, Frank Costello, and Genovese started their own bootlegging organization with financing from Rothstein. In 1930, Genovese was charged with counterfeiting after the police found counterfeit money worth $1 million in a workshop in Bath Beach, Brooklyn. Later in 1930, Genovese was accused of murdering Gaetano Reina, the leader of a Bronx-based gang. Gaetano Reina, one of the early Sicilian Mafia bosses, was ambushed on the evening of February 26, 1930, while leaving the apartment of his mistress, Marie Ennis, on Sheridan Avenue. Hitman Vito Genovese and Joseph Pinzolo shot Reina with a double-barreled shotgun. The hitmen then left their weapons under a parked car and fled. Police arriving at the scene found a pistol and $804 in cash on the corpse. Reina was actually an ally of Masseria, who was also Genovese's boss, but had been suspected of secretly aiding Masseria's archenemy, Salvatore Maranzano, who was considered the founding leader of the Bonanno crime family and was killed as punishment for his betrayal. Thus, Masseria later managed to gain full control of the Reina gang. However, Reina's death would herald more chaos, leading to the Castellammarese War between Masseria and Maranzano. In early 1930, the Castellammarese War broke out between Masseria and Maranzano, with Lucky Luciano betraying his boss, Masseria, and making a secret deal with Maranzano. Luciano agreed to plan Masseria's death in exchange for taking his place and becoming Maranzano's second-in-command. On April 15, 1931, Luciano lured Masseria into a trap by inviting him to a meeting at Nuova Villa Tamaro, a restaurant in Coney Island, where Masseria was killed. While they were playing cards, Luciano suddenly went to the restroom, and after that, Masseria was murdered by 4 hitmen, including Genovese, Albert Anastasia, Joe Adonis, and Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. Thus, Luciano took over Masseria's family, with Vito Genovese, who played a significant role in this success, becoming his deputy. However, there were still enemies to be eliminated, and the next target was Salvatore Maranzano, whom they had recently conspired with to kill Masseria, and whom they recognized as the sole boss. Acting quickly, Luciano and Genovese moved forward with their plan to eliminate Maranzano. During this time, Luciano learned that Maranzano was also planning to kill him and Genovese. Preemptively, Luciano prepared an assassination team to kill Maranzano. When Maranzano called Luciano, Genovese, and Frank Costello to his office for a meeting on September 10, 1931, Luciano knew very well that Maranzano intended to have them killed there. Instead, Luciano sent 4 Jewish hitmen, who were not known to Maranzano's men, to Maranzano's office. With the help of Meyer Lansky and Siegel, these 4 Jewish hitmen were secured. Thus, with Maranzano's elimination, Luciano, now the boss of bosses, later established a Mafia commission to serve as the governing body of organized crime, leading to peace and sharing among the crime families. The Castellammarese War, which seemed to be between Maranzano and Mafia, actually resulted in the victory of a completely different third party. Luciano had no personal grudge against either side. Initially, the Castellammarese War appeared to be a conflict between Maranzano and Mafia, but it suddenly turned into a war between young Mafia bosses of southern Italian origin who came to America at a very young age, and Sicilian-born Mafia bosses who wanted to maintain their traditions here. This was due to the generational and mindset differences between the Sicilian Mafia bosses, called the Mustache Petes, and the younger southern Italian Mafia bosses, called the Young Turks. The Mustache Petes got their name from Mustache Pete, an early generation Sicilian Mafia boss who came to America, and others who had long mustaches and were traditionalists like him. This nickname was given to many Mafia bosses, including Masseria and Morenzo, who were among the first Sicilian Mafia bosses to arrive in America and New York. These Sicilian Mafia bosses valued old-school Mafia traditions highly. The issues between these 2 generations reflected in their mentality, with the old-timers having principles on matters such as honor, tradition, respect, and dignity, refusing to work with non-Italians or even non-Sicilians. Some Mafia bosses took this further by not accepting anyone not from their village or not related to them into their families. They were unwilling to work with anyone who did not resemble them, which is why they were known by this nickname. On the other hand, the Young Turks, such as Lucky Luciano, Vito Genovese, and Frank Costello, new generation Sicilian and southern Italian Mafia bosses, were willing to work with anyone, even Irish and Jews, as long as their interests aligned. The use of Jewish hitmen in the murders of Masseria and Maranzano was a prime example of this. Therefore, they were nicknamed Young Turks. Like the rebellious and revolutionary leaders of the Committee of Union and Progress, who sought to transform the traditional and conservative Ottoman Empire with reforms. Another difference in mentality was that while the traditional Mustache Petes encouraged the illegal sale of alcohol, which was illegal at the time, they strongly opposed drug trafficking. The Young Turks, on the other hand, were in favor of engaging in this business as well. Thus, the forward-thinking Young Turks accused the old-timers of being too blind to see the great opportunities ahead of them, of turning away from the fortune and millions of dollars in earnings they could make. It is worth noting that the millions of dollars of that time would equate to billions of dollars today, adjusted for inflation. Consequently, Luciano easily managed to attract the young men under both Maranzano and Masseria to his side. This topic was also depicted in Mario Puzo's masterpiece, The Godfather, but in a reversed manner. In the film, the Mafia boss with the Turk nickname, Virgil Sollozzo, representing the new generation Mafia bosses, wanted to enter the drug business, while the old generation Mafia bosses, represented by Don Vito Corleone, rejected the drug trade for fear of losing the support of the politicians they relied on. Subsequently, Sollozzo was defeated and killed in this war. In reality, as we mentioned earlier, it was quite the opposite. The Young Turks, representing the new generation and supporting the drug business, namely Lucky Luciano, Vito Genovese, and Frank Costello, emerged victorious by eliminating the old generation. Not only Maranzano, but also his 2 loyal men, Samuel Monaco and Louis Russo, were found dead in Newark Bay, showing signs of torture on their bodies. Additionally, the leader of the Pittsburgh crime family, Joseph Siragusa, was shot dead in his home. Furthermore, the disappearance of Joseph Ardizzone, the leader of the Los Angeles crime family, was successfully executed as part of the rapid elimination of old-school Sicilian bosses. All these events were orchestrated and carried out by the real-life equivalent of Michael Corleone, Lucky Luciano. The old generation Mafia bosses were eliminated one by one, and thus the Young Turks emerged victorious from this bloody war. Returning to Vito Genovese, in 1934, Genovese was charged with ordering the murder of Mafia boss Ferdinand Baccia. Genovese and Baccia had conspired to swindle $150,000 from a wealthy gambler in a high-stakes card game. After the game, Baccia demanded a $35,000 share for introducing the victim to Genovese, but instead of paying him, Genovese decided to have Baccia killed. Genovese and 5 of his men shot Baccia to death in a cafe in Brooklyn. On June 18, 1936, Luciano was convicted of compulsory prostitution and sentenced to 30 to 50 years in prison. With Luciano imprisoned, Genovese took his place and became the new boss of the Luciano crime family. On November 25, 1936, Genovese became a U.S. citizen in New York. In 1937, fearing prosecution for the Baccia murder, Genovese fled to Italy with $750,000 in cash and settled in the city of Nola near his hometown of Naples. With Genovese's departure, Frank Costello became the new boss of the family. After bribing some members of the Italian Fascist Party, Genovese became a close friend of Galeazzo Ciano, Benito Mussolini's son-in-law. While in Italy, Genovese supplied cocaine to Ciano, establishing a mutually beneficial relationship. Genovese donated approximately $4 million to Mussolini's fascist party until the end of World War II. He was also awarded the Order of Saints Maurice and Lazarus, and after helping establish a new fascist party center in Nola, was honored with the title of Commander, an important title by the Italian fascists. By 1943, Genovese was so comfortable that he even ordered the murder of Carlo Tresca, the publisher of an anarchist newspaper in New York and an enemy of Mussolini. Supporting the murder as a favor to the Mussolini government, the hitman carried out the order by shooting Tresca in front of his newspaper office in Manhattan. Although accusations later pointed to Carmine Galante, a member of the Bonanno crime family, as the hitman, no one was ever charged with the Tresca murder, and the crime remained unsolved like many others. When the Allies took control of Italy in September 1943, the Italian fascists were defeated. True to his mafia nature, Genovese quickly switched sides to suit his interests and promptly offered his services to the U.S. Army. At that time, former New York Governor Charles Paletti, who was serving in the U.S. Army, accepted a 1938 Packard sedan from Genovese as a personal gift. America overlooked his past, and as a result, Genovese was appointed as a translator and liaison officer at the U.S. Army headquarters in Naples. Furthermore, he soon became one of the most trusted employees of the Allied military government for occupied territories. Following this 180-degree turn, Genovese, along with Italian gangster Calogero Vizzini, established one of the largest black market operations in southern Italy. Vizzini sent truck caravans loaded with all the basic food supplies necessary for the Italian diet to the starving Naples, and these loads were distributed by Genovese's organization. All the trucks had transit and export documents issued by the American forces in Naples and Sicily, and some bribed American officers even contributed gasoline and trucks to the operation. According to Carabinieri Lieutenant Luke Monzelli, who was tasked with tracking Genovese during his time in Italy, trucks loaded with food supplies were being sent from Vizzini to Genovese. All came with proper documents approved by the authorized mafia members at the service of Vizzini and Genovese. Meanwhile, during his time in Italy, Vito Genovese even befriended the famous Sicilian bandit Salvatore Giuliano, who inspired Mario Puzo's renowned work, The Sicilian. In the summer of 1944, back in New York, Genovese was linked to the Baccia murder by gangster Ernest the Hawk Rupolo, a former associate of Genovese. Facing a murder conviction, Rupolo decided to become a government witness. The same year, U.S. military police arrested Genovese in Italy during an investigation into a black market ring. It was discovered that Genovese had been stealing trucks, flour, and sugar from the army, leading to his arrest. Criminal Investigation Division Agent Orange Dickey was horrified when he delved into Genovese's past and realized that this man was a fugitive wanted for the 1934 Baccia murder. However, neither the Army nor the federal government was interested in pursuing Genovese because he was still considered useful. After months of frustration, Dickey finally started preparations to send Genovese back to New York for trial, despite increasing pressure. Genovese personally offered Dickey a $250,000 bribe to release him, and when that was refused, he threatened Dickey. Dickey was even instructed by his superiors in the military command chain to drop the pursuit of Genovese, but he stubbornly refused to abandon his mission and succeeded in bringing Genovese back to America. In this first part of our two-part video series, we closely examine Genovese's background and his gradual rise to leadership. In the next episode, we will continue to narrate Vito Genovese's takeover of leadership and the subsequent conspiracy that ruined his life and the events that followed. Feel free to ask in the comments if you have any questions. You can also share your opinions and requests with us. Stay tuned for many more videos. If you like this, don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Wishing to see you on beautiful and healthy days. Take care and stay healthy. Goodbye.